So, yesterday, Donald Trump gave a speech at the Department of Justice where he focused on putting an end to political witch hunts and political persecutions. Basically, the theme of the speech was that the DOJ should not behave as if it's in a third world country where corruption is blatant. Instead, the law should apply equally to everyone. The idea here is that Lady Justice is blindfolded. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter how much money you earn or what race or ethnicity you are. The law applies equally across the board. Well, predictably, the mainstream media freaked out, but today I don't want to respond to the media. Today I want to respond to a fellow content creator here on YouTube, because after all, we've been talking a lot about maybe the legacy media doesn't have the power that they have anymore. Maybe the power truly is returning to the hands of the people, into the hands of podcasters, YouTubers, content creators. So specifically, I want to call out Brian Tyler Cohen, who has over 4 million subscribers here on YouTube. And yesterday, not even 24 hours ago, he uploaded a video called "Trump Goes Off the Rails in Unhinged Speech." It hasn't even been 24 hours, and this video is already on the verge of breaking 1 million views. So let's dissect this bit by bit.
Trump just pulled the insane move of delivering a politically charged speech at the Department of Justice, which would already be grossly inappropriate unto itself. Presidents generally respect the line drawn between their office and the DOJ, and they don't cross it, much less enter the DOJ to talk directly to the prosecutors about their political priorities. But not only did Trump cross that line, he blew so far past it, it wasn't visible in the rearview mirror. Here are a few moments that put on full display the absurdity of this speech that was delivered.
And I believe that CNN and MSDNC, who literally write 97.6% bad about me, are political arms of the Democrat Party. And in my opinion, they're really corrupt and they're illegal. What they do is illegal.
Okay, I don't want to mince words about what's happening here. Trump is standing in front of the nation's prosecutors at the DOJ, and he is signaling to them, in no uncertain terms, that his priority is the imaginary illegality of TV networks that commit the crime of, you ready for this? Saying critical things about him. And I want to be clear, this is what fascism looks like, and I understand that word may have lost its meaning because it's been repeated so much, but suppressing speech that is critical of the leader of a country is quite literally fascist behavior. And if there are Republicans watching...
Well, I was watching, so yeah, Brian Tyler Cohen, I'm going to respond because you didn't show the context of the full clip. I'm not surprised, but the Democrats, all they do is take Trump out of context, and that's how they're able to spin their base into a frenzy. That's how they're able to sow the seeds of doubt, sow the seeds of fear into people. Like, if people don't follow the news closely and they see that clip, I wouldn't blame them for being concerned. I wouldn't blame them for thinking, oh, shoot, maybe Trump actually is an authoritarian. Maybe he actually is against the press. But let's just take a closer look at this. I'm going to mute this time. So let's take a close look at the time clip, the timestamp of the video that Brian Tyler Cohen is using. 4:07 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, this is crucial because the speech was broadcast live, so 4:07 p.m. Well, I'm going to show you a clip from 4:02 p.m., a full 5 minutes before the clip that Brian Tyler Cohen showed. It's almost as if he left out context that would have changed what that clip he showed was actually talking about. And again, I just want to confirm, this is also from RSB, the same source that Brian Tyler Cohen was using, Right Side Broadcasting. Let's take a look.
And they'll write whatever they say. And what do you do to get rid of it? You convict Trump. All you have to do is be really tough on him and ultimately convict him, and they leave you alone. It's totally illegal what they do. I just hope you can all watch for it, but it's totally illegal.
Convict Trump. It's totally illegal what they do. So what he's talking about here is specifically about the political witch hunts against him. And not just that, but the fact that he believes what he's saying, the argument that he's trying to present to the public is that the Democrats set up all these political witch hunts, and then they use that to shape the media narrative. So they can use the talking point, convicted felon, over and over and over again. He's basically talking about them as if they're one giant cartel. And I think the easiest thing to prove this, even if you don't agree with Trump or you don't believe he was a victim of a witch hunt, is the E. Jean Carroll case, where that case had already passed the statute of limitations in New York, and they actually rewrote the law so she could bring that case forward again. Is there any place in history where you can think of that happening to a presidential candidate? It wasn't just that, like these timings, the timing of all these cases, the fact that they were all brought after he announced his run for president, after the campaign was already in full swing. They couldn't bring any of those cases forward. I mean, and then there's obviously bias in the justice system. Many of the cases in regards to classified documents, what about Hillary Clinton? Nothing happened there. What about Joe Biden? Oh, I think he actually committed a crime, but his memory's just too poor. He's a well-meaning elderly man. We're not going to do anything. And what about Roger Stone? Specifically, when the FBI raided his home, and CNN just so happened to be there with the cameras rolling. It's almost as if CNN got a tip, an insider tip from the FBI. Hey, show up at that place at 6 a.m. Show up there before anyone wakes up. What are the odds of that? I don't know about you, but to me, this all seems to confirm what Donald Trump is saying, that hey, there were political witch hunts against him, and it was the deep state coordinating with the media to ruin his reputation, to ruin the odds, to ruin his chances of winning re-election. But instead, what the media, what the Democrats, what content creators like Brian Tyler Cohen are doing are taking Trump out of context to push their narrative, to incite fear, and to, I don't know, maybe incite resistance against the Trump administration. When you take a look at the full speech, it's hard not to see what he really was talking about. But, I'm going to be fair. Trump makes it easy for them. He's not always the most wise with his words. When it comes to writing for television, they say there are two types of writers. They say there are writers who are planners, and these are people who know exactly what they're going to write. They know exactly what the story is. Every scene has a purpose, and there are specific beats to keep the episode going along. But then there's also the other side where some writers are gardeners, where they plant the seeds. They have a broad picture of where they want to go, but they let it grow organically, and it just happens. I feel like Donald Trump's speech writing or speech giving skill is neither a planner and neither a gardener. I feel like he's more like an impressionistic, minimalistic painter where, he does many dots. He does the weave, right? He's talked about the weave in his speeches, and sometimes you have no idea what he's talking about. But when you take a step back and you take a look at the whole picture, it's like, that makes sense. And that's why, like I said, giving this context, the context of illegal persecutions, illegal trials against him, 5 minutes before he starts talking about the way the media covered it and the way that the media seemingly coordinates with his political enemies, I mean, it makes sense. But unless you follow Trump closely, unless you really listen to his speeches, no wonder people like Brian Tyler Cohen are able to manipulate their viewers. Now, believe it or not, on CNN, they actually came to Trump's defense. Yes, that network, that CNN. Jake Tapper actually said that Trump had a point in what he was saying.
Let's go back. We'll talk more about the government funding bill later in the show, but I have a legal panel here, so let's stick with this. Sochi, I want you to take a listen to this from President Trump.
We must be honest about the lies and abuses that have occurred within these walls. Unfortunately, in recent years, a corrupt group of hacks and radicals within the ranks of the American government obliterated the trust and goodwill built up over generations. They weaponized the vast powers of our intelligence and law enforcement agencies to try and thwart the will of the American people.
Now, you don't have to be, I know you disagree, you're shaking your head, you're going to get the mic in the sack. You don't have to be a member of MAGA to say, you know what? Those Peter Strzok, Lisa Page texts were awful. There was FISA abuse. There was that weird thing with Carter Page. I don't know about that Alvin Bragg case where he basically invented a felony. You don't have to be a member of MAGA to look and say, you know what? He does have some legitimate grievances.
You know what? He does have some legitimate grievances. Yes, even Jake Tapper gets it. And by the way, again, this is all coming from that one DOJ speech where Donald Trump specifically called out CNN and MSNBC. If CNN truly believed that Trump was calling CNN illegal, calling MSNBC illegal, don't you think they would have responded to that clip? Don't you think they would have pushed back and criticized him? But instead, no, they responded to a completely different portion of the speech, which again is what I was talking about earlier. The theme of that speech was, hey, the DOJ needs to stop these political witch hunts. Hey, the DOJ needs to stop with the corruption. That was the theme of it. But the Democrats, as always, take things out of context. Let's take a look at the legal analysts' analysis.
Here is what I want to assure people about. Merrick Garland was a judge. He was a long-time career prosecutor. He did everything to follow the facts and the law and allow that to happen. It was a special counsel matter where Merrick Garland wasn't making the decisions. What I'll say even further, there is a jury in both Florida and DC that believe that there is enough evidence for Donald Trump to be indicted.
I mean a grand jury.
A grand jury on 44 counts. And this isn't just some conspiracy theory. There was no weaponization. Donald Trump, the federal government believes that Donald Trump committed crimes. And Jack Smith said in his report that if he were not elected president, that he believes he would have been successful in these two cases. And so the reality is the only reason why he can go out now and claim weaponization is because he is president. They dropped the charges only because he was president. There is no other reason. Nobody acquitted him. There was no other reason that those charges were dropped other than the fact that the American people elected him.
I will just, so for people at home, Jim, I'm coming right to you. For people at home, I should note, I was talking about the Russiagate investigation and the Alvin Bragg case, and you deftly switched it to the Jack Smith investigations.
I was not involved in the
You were
Alvin
not involved
Bragg
in the other
or
ones,
the Russia
but I'm just saying, just for
investigation.
people at home, I was taking issue with some other ones, but go ahead.
She switched it realistically because she knew the argument that Jake Tapper, I can't believe I'm saying this, pigs are flying somewhere, was right. Yeah, he was spot on with that, and I really am surprised. But again, I want to bring up, she was saying, these cases were just dropped because Trump was elected president. Again, what about Hillary Clinton? BleachBit, servers in her bathroom. What about Joe Biden? Documents, well-meaning elderly man. I think the double standard here is very clear. And once you point that out to Democrats, once you put it all out in front of them, it is impossible to deny how far the scales of justice are tilted right now. Two more things I want to get to before we end today's video. Just a friendly reminder, in about 1 hour, I'm going to be doing a live stream. Yes, I will be talking about The Wheel of Time because it is my favorite show, one of my favorite book series. But it's not just going to be about that. It's going to be more of a hangout. Someone had already come into the chat and it was like, hey, Daniel, I don't think you should become a reaction channel, or didn't say that exactly, but that was sort of the gist I was getting. But I'm not going to turn into a reaction channel. I'm messing around some with different things I want to bring into the channel, and one of them that I've been toying around with for a while is a hangout for us to just, hey, take a break from politics and we can talk about sports, we can talk about entertainment, but from my point of view, now that Wheel of Time is running and is on TV and it's a show that I enjoy, I was like, hey, maybe we'll make that the center of the hangout. But as other topics come up, as people join the chat, we can talk about other things for sure. I just wanted to put something where it's more personable and more, just more relaxing than, hey, the everyday grind of politics. But I will be introducing some more political heavy videos in the future. Like I've already teased the documentary style videos. But that will be here in about an hour, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, 7 p.m. Central. Now, about 2 videos ago, I was talking about Chuck Schumer, and I asked you if you thought that, hey, is the media going after Chuck Schumer the way they went after Joe Biden? And it was split about 80-20. For the 80%, it was yes. And then 20%, it's not that you guys were saying no, but the sense I was getting was, I'm not so sure. I would need to see some more evidence, or I would need to see some more maliciousness from the media. Well, I have a clip here. I believe it's from Van Jones, if my memory serves me right. This isn't Van Jones being malicious, but it's his observations of the entire thing. And it really stood out to me because he says that he's never seen the Democrats so angry. So whether or not there is a coordinated push to oust Chuck Schumer, I do think that something big is happening on the left. And part of me wonders, are they in the early days of maybe having their own Tea Party? I don't know, but something is definitely going on.
Then how angry are Democrats at Leader Schumer?
I've never seen this level of volcanic anger at a Democrat ever.
Ever?
Ever.
Wow.
We could be grumpy, we can be frustrated with each other. There is a volcanic eruption of outrage at Leader Schumer because we want a Mitch McConnell. I remember when Obama had all the cards, Mitch McConnell drove Obama nuts, twisted his pinky, broke his kneecaps, and got stuff done for Republicans when they shouldn't have gotten an inch. They got miles. We have a Senate majority leader who is beloved in this party, but we want somebody who's going to stand up to this bully. Stand up to this bully. Do something. And if you shut the government down and it gets a little bit crazy, at least some politics is about the rationality. There's an emotional need to stop Donald Trump and Elon Musk from running over this party. And I think Chuck Schumer has radically misread the room.
Radically misread the room.
I don't feel any sympathy for Chuck Schumer whatsoever, but I do love the infighting that's happening in the Democrat Party, because the infighting means they're going to be too busy fighting each other than actually fighting back against Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Now, what's interesting there was what Van Jones said. He didn't say that they need to push forward their own agenda or push forward their own vision, their own policies, their own ideas. Rather, the only goal is to stop Trump, stop Musk. Kind of sad. You would hope, I mean, at least Donald Trump has a vision. At least Donald Trump has a plan. And that's what the people voted for. That's why he won in such an overwhelming fashion. Last but not least, I wanted to give a shout out to Rich Weil 2285. Thank you. So again, one thing I want to do now is if anyone does a super thanks or tips via YouTube, I do want to say thank you specifically. I know I haven't done that before, but it is a new thing on the channel that I know it's hard-earned money, and the fact that you're sending it to the channel to show support really is appreciated and means a lot. And just to clarify, I am calling this the Governor's Club. So anyone who does that, you are part of the Governor's Club. So thank you, Rich. I appreciate you. Again, the question, or I don't think I've asked the question of the day yet. But yeah, what do you think? To me, the context here is pretty clear. I think Donald Trump gave context of talking about the cases against him and how the media was working with those people to get scoops and to try to tank his presidential campaign. Or do you agree with Brian Tyler Cohen, the take that Trump really was saying CNN and MSNBC are illegal? Like I said, I think that Trump can sometimes be sloppy with his language. He's not always the most nuanced, but I do think when you take a step back and you take a look at the broad strokes brush of what he's saying, I think it's pretty clear. And I don't know, like I've never met personally Brian Tyler Cohen, so I don't know if he's being disingenuous and if he's trying to mislead his viewers. I know he is definitely a Democrat content creator, but maybe he didn't know the context, and maybe he innocently posted that not knowing what Trump was actually talking about. Or, you know, maybe he really was trying to sow doubts of fear and incite rebellion and resistance against Trump. So what do you think? Do you think Brian Tyler Cohen was being honest, or do you think he was trying to manipulate people? Like maybe he was just genuinely mistaken about it. I don't know. And I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but with something like that, with someone like Trump, who's been in the public eye for so long and has been in politics now for a decade it's just like, really? We're still playing this game? You're still using the same old lines? You have no other tricks up your sleeve? You might want to work on some new ones. But as always, if you haven't already, be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.